The first job I'm doing with this length of fabric I bought to make sabais is I'm cutting it down its length, because out of one length of fabric that I bought from the fabric shop, I can make 2 sabais by splitting it down the middle like so. So I now have a piece of fabric which is 71 centimeters wide and 2.5 meters long. This is this lovely vibrant blue material that I'm going to use for the Mary Sabai, for Mary the Mother of Jesus, and this is the basic piece of material that I'm going to use to make the Sabai. So now I'm going to use this piece of lace that I bought, beautiful blue lace, to do the decorative end of the Sabai. So this is the lace here, and as you can see, I've now got to take this piece of lace and cut it in half, because one half is going to be at the top end of the Sabai and the other half at the bottom. So here I am now. I'm going to cut this piece of lace in half, like so. Don't be frightened to use the scissors. So as you can see, the end piece of lace that I've got is narrower than the width of the Sabai. Don't worry about that. It means that the Sabai is going to be a little bit narrower, and a lot of this, all this material here will be actually lost, tucked in underneath. But we just work with what we've got, and the Sabais don't want to be too wide anyway, otherwise they become unmanageable. So I make sure that the manufactured straight edge of the Sabai, of the fabric for the Sabai, is parallel to the manufactured straight edge of the lace. So in this case I'm using 7 centimeters in on this side and 7 centimeters in on this side. Okay, so it's midway. So there's, as I say, this is quite narrow, this piece of lace, but it doesn't matter. Okay, I'm now going to add a piece of ribbon, gold ribbon, which I'm going to add top and bottom to the decorative end. So what I need to do is I've just laid that across the width of the lace, okay, and I'll just allow a little bit extra, just trim it off like so. Okay, and I'm going to do the same at the top end. Just get this piece of lace, this little bit of ribbon I mean, and trim it across the width of the lace. I just have to trim a little bit of the end of the fabric off, where, so that it's flush with the lace, and then so I just do this trimming along here, and then once I've trimmed it, then we lay the ribbon across, you see. So there we go, just trim that up carefully. So now we have the ribbon, which we can lay across the end of the Sabai. Okay, I've now pinned the ribbon, you see, on top of the lace, and the critical thing is, with the ribbon, you've got to make sure that the top edge here is exactly the same distance to the bottom edge there on this end as on this end. In this case it's 51.5 centimeters, so it just, whatever it works out, it doesn't matter what the actual distance is, but it does matter that it's the same on both ends, because when you fold it over they've got to actually meet up. Okay, I've now sewn the gold ribbon to the end of the sabai, and you can see I've attached the lace to the sabai with the ribbon, and I've just sewn along this bottom edge here. The top edge, as you can see, is free for the moment. Now I've also sewn the bottom edge, the bottom ribbon of the sabai. I've connected the lace at the bottom with the ribbon, and here I've sewn quite firmly both the top edge and the bottom edge of the ribbon to the fabric. Okay, now the key with this sewing, you can see with the needle at the top end where I've come through, I'm going back into the ribbon as close as I can to where I came up through with the thread, so that I get these little tiny invisible stitches. You can hardly see them, you see, the little tiny invisible stitches on this side of the ribbon that's on show, and I've got the long stitches at the back of the ribbon, of the fabric I mean, that's not on show. So you can see the long stitches are where you don't see them, where they're going to be, they're going to be underneath and out of sight when I close up the sabai at the end of the sew. All right, so this is called invisible stitching. Whatever you do, you don't want those long stitches on show on this side of the sabai where you've got your lace. Now what I've done is I have to make sure that the ribbons on both ends are equidistant from each other. So that's really important. So I've just found that the whole length of my measuring tape works out perfectly. So you can see I've pinned it through the ends with a couple of pins, and I'm going to make sure that both edges are in parallel, are equidistant from each other. Very important bit of measurement, this one. Also, I have to make sure that the distance between the edge of the fabric and the edge of the lace, in this case, it's the same on this side as it is on this side. And the same, I measure up there, it's 3 inches on that side and 3 inches on that side. And then in a moment, I've got to measure to make sure that the edges of this ribbon, I haven't pinned this ribbon yet, I'm just making sure that it's equidistant. But then when I pin it up, I've got to make sure that it's the same distance between this and when I put in the bit of ribbon at the top end. There we are, we're going to put the ribbon at the top end, and you've got to make sure that these ribbons are also equidistant. So long as you get all your measurements right, the sabai will work out in the end. So there we are, I've pinned it up so that now the distance between the ribbons at the top end is the same. In this case, it's 51 centimeters. So, and you'll see there's a little bit of blue fabric poking out at the top end of the sabai, at the top end of the ribbon. So what I'm going to do now is to very simply get my scissors here and just simply trim away, cut away this edge here. Do you see? So I'm now cutting that away with my scissors. There you go. You just take that edge off with your scissors, trim it in so that you don't get any overlap of either the sabai. You've got to have this edge here clear, so you want to trim back to about there. Okay. So that's the whole thing laid out, all pinned out, ready to sew. So that's the top edge of the ribbon, nice and sharp. I've trimmed off, I've cut the excess fabric away so that I've got a nice clean edge of the golden ribbon. Okay. So I'm ready to start sewing, but before I start sewing, I always get my little altar set up. You see, I've got the pictures of Mary and Kuan Yin, and I've got this is my little mini altar, which you'll see in the Sabai CDs. I need a little bit more light, but there's Shiva in there. I get Shiva set up properly. There we go. He's showing up in the candlelight. That's lovely. Shiva's there. And also we've got Kuan Yin there. Get the little... There we are. You can just see Kuan Yin in here. Hello, Kuan Yin. How you doing? There we are. So we've got all our deities. We've got Buddha in his little shrine. We've got Shiva bouncing away. He likes to dance, Shiva does. The dancing Shiva is there. He's always dancing. And Kuan Yin is there. We've got Jesus there. We've got this lovely picture of Kuan Yin, and it's been connected by her in a channeling. So that's what those red marks are. That's with the that was done in the East. So that's a connected picture of Kuan Yin, and there's Mary. So it's very important to get your little altar going with all the Sabai deities when you're going to start doing your sew, okay? So here I am starting to sew. I'm nice and relaxed and comfortable. And I always sew by hand. You see, there's my little altar over there. Okay. And then I've got my sewing machine there, but I use the sewing machine to make the little bags. At the moment, I still sew everything by hand. So there's my little sewing kit, all ready to go, with all the different colour threads that I used for the different sabais. And there's the gold thread. And I'll show you in a moment how I use that gold thread to finish off the ends of the sabais. So here we are. Just make yourselves comfortable and enjoy the sew. The sew is a meditation. That's why I do it by hand. And it's a very sacred time, and it's a lovely time to be at peace with God and at peace with the deities, the ascended masters, and to just really enjoy gently sewing and getting away from all the rush and hubbub of the day. So I'm going to start closing the sabai, sewing it all up by sewing up these ends here. Okay, and you can see my needle, and I've got in the needle a lovely gold embroidery thread. So that's what I use on these gold ribbons, the gold embroidery thread, and it looks really smart when you're finished. Okay, I've just sewn up the two ends of the gold ribbon, and I've come to the end of the sew. So what I've done is I've just done a couple of stitches back, and now I'm pushing the needle through those stitches. Okay, and when I pull the needle through, I'll cut the thread, the end thread, just down here. I'll just cut the thread. I'll pull that thread through with the needle, and then I'll snip it with the scissors there. I can't show you because I need both hands to do that job, and one of my hands is holding the camera, so that all I can do is just show you what I intend to do. Okay? And they call that whipping. It's in the nautical term. So I push the needle through those stitches, pull it tight, and I do that wherever I run out of thread. You'll see it through again and again. It's just the way to end the sew. Cut the thread neatly so it's tight and doesn't unravel, and then away you go with the next bit of thread. So here I am closing the sabai now with gold thread. There you can see my stitching working along the end, and there is the end of the sabai yet to be closed. And so I start at one end of the sabai, closing it all up, and then work my way to the other. There I am finishing off the end of the sabai. I've just finished with all that gold thread. This embroidery thread's quite hard to work with, so if you just want to use the gold thread off a spool, use it, don't be too fussy. And also, if you think, oh, I can't sew, I can't sew a sabai. Look, I'm 71, I'm a bloke, all right? I'm sewing. I've just had to teach myself how to do it, because very quickly I realised I couldn't expect other people to do it for me, although seamstresses have helped me along the line. But I just got on and did it because of necessity. And, it's not easy, but it's savour, it's service, and it's a delight to do. It's a wonderful thing to do. So my recommendation is to sew a sabai for yourself. Make two sabais out of one piece of fabric. Sew one for yourself and one to give away. And that's the beginning of unconditional love and service. Thinking of other people, thinking of what can I do to help other people get started. If everyone did that, then the whole thing would grow exponentially. It'd be, it'd be an absolute miracle. So anyway, good luck with it. So I've started to sew up the lace end of the Sabai, and as you can see, it's a little bit corrugated here. I've actually got rid of that excess of fabric by making slight corrugations, so it's not perfect on this side, but nobody's going to notice, and I've found the only way to get rid of that excess fabric. You can see how it's much neater on this side, so don't worry, nothing's perfect in this world, and there you can see the corrugations of the imperfection. Okay, but just soldier on, and as I say, I've been making, you know, over 100 sabais, and I still can't get it right. So if you don't get it right the first time, don't be too discouraged, because the main thing is to have the sabai working. It's just the beauty of the fabric, the gorgeous fabric, and you know, perfection awaits us in heaven. So let's not be too fussy down here on earth. So there we are, the end of the sabai, other end of the sabai, all nicely done, all sewn up. So I've closed the lace end, coming right the way through. There you go. And it's not so bad. I've managed to sort of spread that out a bit, so that's all nice and neat. So there we are, a lovely sabai end, all ready to go, and it looks really neat, really beautiful, lovely Mother Mary sabai coming along. There we go. There's Archie just cleaning himself. Lovely to have Archie with me when I'm sewing sabais. So here I am starting what I call the long run, which is the closing the whole length of the sabai, and you can see here I've got this little bit of a crumple, this little bit of extra length on that forward edge, so I'm just going to use this little trick of pushing it up with my forefinger, and the little corrugations that are hardly noticed, get rid of that little excess there, and then I'm ready to sew the whole length. So there we are, I've started the sew, and you can see the corrugations, and now look, you can see that we've nearly got rid of that excess, and it really doesn't show up much against the whole fabric. It just sort of disappears, you know, you hardly notice it. So that's how you get rid of, if you find one side is a bit longer than the other, you just have to collect it up as you sew, and lose that excess in the whole sew of the thread. So all I've got to do now is continue with that spiral stitch, just going round and round and round, and you know, finish the whole sabai. You can see it running off into the distance. So it's going to take me a couple of hours of sewing, so I won't bore you with sitting through the sewing, and I reckon it's 15 to 20 hours altogether to make a sabai. It's a labour of love, and it's a lovely way to relax and enjoy a little bit of sewing. So do enjoy yourselves whilst you're making sabais, and just stay in a state of meditation and prayerfulness. Keep your little altar going there. You see there's my little altar in the distance. There you go, there's my little altar there with the pictures of Mary and Kuan Yin, and this is a Mary sabai I'm sewing here, so she's looking very happy. She's going to get a nice new sabai.